The local index is weaker at midday trade along with its global peers. Let's tell you why. We're joined now by Viv Govender, Portfolio Manager at Rand Swiss. Viv, thank you very much for joining us. So how are we looking this hour at least?
We are seeing resources under great deal of pressure. On the other hand, the Rand is a little bit stronger. We are seeing the Rand at about 15 or so. If you look back, just a few weeks ago, we were seeing it closer to 16, so a nice little recovery coming through there. But resources, like I said, are down at the moment. The overall market is negative, but we aren't seeing as much pain in the other sectors as we are seeing in the resource sector at the moment.
The World Bank loan has been approved, some 30 billion rands for the pandemic relief being spent by the government. How will the funds help them balance their books?
Well, I mean, it's helpful. I mean, any money is helpful. But in talking about the issues we have in our books here, that amount of money is not going to be enough to make a significant difference, I would say. When it comes to governments, a billion here, a billion there, and after a bit of time, they add up to some real money. Government's numbers are just so gigantic in terms of what they owe and what they basically spend and so on, that even huge numbers like this don't really make a massive difference in the longer term. The only thing that's going to actually get our books back in order is to have the economy grow significantly faster. Unless we see economic growth happen at a rate that we haven't seen for well over a decade, the budget is going to be under greater and greater pressure going forward.
If it's not going to make a difference, how will we service this debt?
Look, I mean, it will make a small difference. It's not like it's not going to be used at all. We don't need the funds here. But you are correct. Debt servicing is becoming a major issue in this country. And the normal way you service debt is that if you are borrowing money as a government, the hope is that at some time in the future, just like as you as a person, if you want to borrow some money in Christmas, the hope is sometime this year or in the future, you'd be earning more money than you are spending. And that would make you basically have a greater amount of surplus that you could use to pay off the debt. In South Africa at the moment, unfortunately, we are spending way more than we are earning, and the growth rate is so small that over time, the debt servicing that we have to basically continue to do, because we are continually borrowing more over time, and we have to obviously pay interest on that debt, becomes a greater burden on the fiscus.
Let's take a look at this and please help us make sense of it. So several former executives at Dimension Data are caught up in a fraud scandal following a forensic probe into the December 2019 sale of the campus, that iconic head office in Bryanston.
Yeah, look, I mean, obviously this is something where you can't really get in depth unless you're a legal expert. What I have to say is that this is not the first one we've seen in recent times in corporate South Africa. Of course, the most famous one, in recent years has been Steinhoff. But more recently we had like Tongaat. And there's a number of different companies out there that at the moment have doubtful books. And what you have to understand about the financial sector is this. When it comes to these large companies, there's literally no way for an outsider to understand what's happening in the company. Even in some cases for the insider to understand what happens in the company, unless you can trust what's happening in the books. And if the books are messed up, then obviously there's an issue. And another thing, if you have sales happening, if you have corporate deals happening, you as a shareholder have to trust that the management that are doing these deals are doing it considering your best interest at heart, or certainly taking interest into account, and not doing it for their own particular needs. We've seen, for instance, with Tongaat, there's some questions around that sale or of the controlling stake that rights issue is happening, where this group that owned like 10% is now taking a controlling stake in the company, and there's questions about whether or not the people that are making the decisions around this here are taking the minority shareholders' interest into account, and that's something that we in South Africa used to be very good at, but unfortunately more recently has come under more scrutiny.
In retail matters, Truworths and Foschini both publishing their trading updates for their respective groups. Talk us through those numbers. Is South Africa's textile sector staging a comeback?
Not textiles, but the clothing sales are staging a comeback. Apparently, Foschini saw something like a 17% jump up in December sales because of Black Friday. I don't know. I mean, I saw Black Friday as a reasonably quiet period compared to what you used to see a few years ago. But maybe, compared to the previous year where we had obviously COVID still in, really, affecting the economy, that might be a slight improvement. That being said, I mean, we are seeing certain interesting things, for instance, like cell phone sales were down. And that's one of the things that we are seeing globally. I mean, there's a bit of a supply shortage at the moment, and certain like durable goods, chips especially, there's chips basically for, computers, not for, eating, are basically on short supply in the world at the moment. And that's causing a bit of a bit of a crunch out there. That being said, what we spoke about previously around the growth rate in South Africa, clothing sales, any kind of retail depends on the economy growing, depends on people having more money in the future. And if you want to have a growing, clothing sector or textile sector or cell phone sector for that matter in terms of retail sales, you need to have people having more income. And unless you have growth comes from that sector, or from the overall, we will obviously see some pressures coming through in every sector over time.
Viv Govender is the portfolio manager at Rand Swiss. Thank you.